This is Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And I'm your host, Dave Jewett, and we've got a slightly different kind of episode this week as we head to the movies to check out the weapons of Captain America. Everything from the World War II weaponry of the first Avenger to the modern arsenal of Cap, Natasha, and Bucky.
I really like the progression of weapon use. He opens fire with the grenade launcher, the most dangerous thing he can use to get the most shock value and destructive fire. He switches to the fully automatic M4 with the grenade launcher underneath. Next best thing. And he keeps going and he goes down and down and down until he's got a knife. And then he ends up with this Derringer. So just when you think he's out of firearms, he pulls another one out.
If you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on next week's episode. If you can't wait that long, you can sign up to our Patreon to watch next week's episode right now, 1 week early, which is shaping up to be a stealthy saunter through France in Sniper Elite Resistance. There is also the extended edition of this episode, so if you want deeper breakdowns, more discussion between Jonathan and I, and a look at more props and weapons from Hydra's arsenal, head over to our Patreon. But whether you watch us there or subscribe to us here on YouTube, we appreciate the support. Right, it's over to Jonathan.
Finish your mission, Doctor, before the American finishes his.
Sir! I'm sorry, Herr Schmidt. We fought to the last man.
Evidently not.
Superb. This is, as far as I know, a completely original design. Heavily referencing the Luger, but they have not done the Star Wars thing of sticking stuff on a real Luger. This is an original Hydra design, somehow an energy weapon. I mean, the overall silhouette is very Luger, and the overhang at the rear really reminds you of the ears on the rear of the barrel extension. But that shape at the back, the ramps that where the cocking toggles rise up, and that's how they break to allow it to extract and eject. And the toggle goes up and the toggle goes down and it all goes forward again. Even though this thing does not work that way, clearly, it still has that design cue of the, not quite the ramps on the top, but the angled overhang at the back. And that makes so much more sense. Like in universe, you wouldn't take a Luger and make it an energy weapon. You design something that's familiar to the user of a Luger. So I love all the design, production design of this film is so good. And Red Skull having a space laser Luger, I was grinning like an idiot when I first saw this, and it's still good today. I'd love to get a prop from that into this collection. Larry, if you're watching, have you got any spare?
Wonderful weather this morning, isn't it?
Yes, but I always carry an umbrella.
Ah, now this is cool. So I never noticed that. That's Thompson. I thought that was a model 1928. You can see it says model of 1921 on it. By slightly weird coincidence, the easiest Thompson with the foregrip and a convenient 50-round drum mag that I could get was a fairly recent acquisition, which is now our third model of 1921. So we have two that both came from the IRA, but it is a model 1921, which I never knew the one under that desk was as well, which is kind of cool. Anyway, it's got its foregrip, but it does not have its stock, and that's because it just comes off with a push of a button and it slides off. Something that was got rid of for later on with the M1, and that makes it this kind of hugely oversized pistol, which is a real strain to try and point with. But you know, if you're trying to fit this thing under a desk, maybe not with a drum mag on it, then yeah, take the buttstock off. And it's not implausible that they would still have 21s in 1940 Blur. And then what we see there is Peggy Carter's got herself a PPK. Makes more sense in this time frame probably than Bond having one. Certainly Bond in 2020 whatever. 1940s, fantastic pistol to have, and it just says agent. You know, secret agent, perfect casting.
Would it be reasonable for a British agent, or I guess a SHIELD agent, using an enemy's pistol though? Was that commonly done?
It's not a no. SOE agents per se were not necessarily routinely armed. They would have weapons in their possession to defend themselves with. If they're discovered or something, they might take one out. But the trouble is, if you get stopped and searched and you have an illegal firearm on you, you're blown immediately. Whereas certainly SOE used enemy weapons. We have Lugers threaded for silencers. They were fairly origin agnostic when it came to the weapons they would use. So it's by no means, of all of the stretches in this movie, historically, that's not one really. And don't forget, this thing was available for a short time before the Nazis did what they did. So it's not impossible that someone would have got hold of one by this point. And of course, by this point in the war, you could well have captured one from an officer. Who knows? All bets are off. It's perfectly plausible. Now, what it isn't, of course, is very British. And she is meant to be British/American agency of S.H.I.E.L.D. I guess it's multinational, but American-based. So it's a little bit of a surprise in that respect. So if I remember rightly, we have a bit of a S.H.I.E.L.D. foreshadowing moment coming up. The defensive object, not the fictional organisation. And it's even got the star on it. Now that I watch this again, it's a little on the nose, isn't it? But we'll let them have it.
In relation to this scene, so I had a question.
And I have a P-38.
So the Hydra agent using a P-38, shooting the door, the bullets are getting stopped. We know modern doors, a bullet would go through that, but the oldie time doors, 1940s era cars, were made out of heavier metals, were made out of sturdier stuff. So is it feasible that a 1940s taxi door could stop a pistol caliber round? More so than a modern day door, I guess.
It is. Now, they've kind of chosen the wrong pistol to make it unassailable as far as criticism goes, because 45 ACP, we have plenty of evidence, empirical and historical, for the big, slow 45 slug getting stopped by car doors of the period. These mushroom. They put out perfect little domed mushrooms and fall to the floor. The P-38 being 9x19 parabellum with significantly more penetration through sheet metal like that, it's less plausible. But there's more to a car door than just the outer skin, and indeed any inner furniture that there is on the door. There's the window mechanism, there's reinforcing braces. So if the bullet hits any of that, for one thing, it could be deflected and miss you. For another, it might actually be slowed down and stopped. I think we shot a computer monitor once for reasons with a 44 Magnum, a flat screen, old school flat screen computer monitor stopped a 44 Magnum bullet. So the answer is yes.
I like to think the reason you shot it was just an annoying email.
Yeah. I was imagining an annoying email when we shot it, put it that way. There we go. That's what we want. Now, I'm guessing that's the same model 1921 that we saw under the desk. But in terms of props, there are only so many of those around. They may have used a 1928 for that scene. So he's kind of conceived of as a hero that uses a gun. And for a while, continues to do so.
Yeah, as the movies go on, he uses a firearm less and less. And I think it's a conscious decision about Captain America being a defender more than an attacker.
You'll notice that with Falcon, once they've decided he's going to be Captain America, spoilers from 10 years ago, I guess, they stop him using guns too. It's definitely that idea that, and he's not a super soldier. Like Cap can literally kill you with a shield.
Some of the blunt force trauma that Captain America does to the baddies, especially in Civil War, it's like, that wasn't any less damaging than a bullet.
No, it's interesting, isn't it? Because within his period and mindset, there'd be nothing sort of dishonorable about having a gun in any way. But you do get this sense that there's some bit of politics maybe creeping in. Although I think with him, it's quite justifiable that he doesn't have a weapon, as I say.
If you're enjoying the episode so far, may I recommend checking out the extended edition over on our Patreon, a double-length feature which includes Jonathan and I breaking down some very odd Hydra props.
I can't decide if I like them or not. I know what you mean by cursed. In fact, oh god, it's at the back. Oh god, no, they really are cursed.
Yeah, I think that's supposed to be the magazine. I don't know if I'm reading that because of the ribs.
No, it is. It is. Oh no.
How does the bullet go where it needs to go?
I take it all back.
You can also get early access to our Sniper Elite Resistance episode. But either way, thank you for supporting us, for liking the video, commenting, subscribing, all of that good stuff. And now, back to the video.
Vibranium is stronger than steel and a third the weight.
How come it's not a standard issue?
I like the way he says, how come it's not standard issue? Like every soldier should be carrying a hoplite shield, essentially. It's nice that they put those smears on there. They look like copper smears from bullet impacts. Plausibly enough. If they just had no impacts on it, that wouldn't have sold the scene as well. And here we go, kitting himself out with the iconic shield, but still with a firearm. And for me, that's the coolest Captain America look. 1911 in one hand, shield in the other. You fire your 7 rounds, you holster the pistol, and then you just use the shield.
And there's really no other pistol he could have than a Colt 1911.
I also like, sort of narratively, the idea that he would definitely use a gun at first, and of course a pistol is about the only thing that makes sense with the shield, and the shield is defensive. And then he's learning that he can use it as an offensive weapon, and this becomes almost an encumbrance. What good is 7 rounds of this versus unlimited throws of a shield? Albeit, once you've thrown it, I would like to be able to then draw a pistol to defend myself until it comes back, or in case I lose it. So it's kind of a shame he didn't keep a pistol on his hip, even if he didn't often use it. But I get why they did it, and it just shows that he's that powerful, he doesn't need a firearm. That's the less maybe, this idea that he's so pure and good that he doesn't use a gun later is, I don't know, maybe we're projecting there. Maybe it's more practical. You can get a hint there of Steve is doing a slightly awkward reload with his shield on his arm. And that's kind of what's persuading me that story-wise, him ditching the gun makes sense. It's like, I can't deal with both these things. I'm just going to chuck my shield. And sadly, one of a couple of times where Bucky gets the shield, foreshadowing, and then they don't make him Captain America. But you would grab the thing, cover against incoming rounds. It's been shown to be extremely bulletproof. You get that really meaty impact sound from it as well. That kind of like what's become an iconic vibranium impact sound effect.
Here we get into the Hydra weapons of the weird gauntlets and flamethrower.
The double flamethrowers. I mean, I hadn't seen anyone use a double flamethrower projector before. It's kind of cool. And the idea that they corral him by firing the flamethrowers either side like that.
So I think those suits, exoskeleton weapons, they fire the plasma, but the flamethrower is like a secondary weapon. So these Hydra soldiers have both.
It's like an underbarrel almost. Just walk slowly towards the enemy expendable troops, I guess. Very expensively kitted out expendable troops. I mean, you have to query the Gears of War effect of bright blue lights on all your weapons. Not great at night, is it?
Hey, Sailor.
We got Black Widow here with her twin Glock 26s. The armorer from the movie explained to me was really cast for Scarlett Johansson as something appropriate to the size of her hands.
I only noticed when going back through the movie, when she fires downwards through the grate, they sound suppressed. Because, of course, they're doing like an infiltration mission on the ship, but they're not.
That's a good catch. Yeah, that's a sound guy thing. Now, here's the main event from this movie. The antagonist with the Milkor grenade launcher, but that's not all he's got. He's pretty well kitted out there. Very kind of thermobaric, incendiary looking grenades from this thing, but who knows what weapons program or ammunition program this thing has come from. Gets himself an M4 with an EOTech and an M203 attached to it, handed to him by his valet. And on his back, now ours is, actually it might not be too far off. I didn't realise that. They've taken the stock off. So we actually have one with the stock drifted off that I could have picked up, but I picked this one up instead. And he has it in a very cool way on his back, like a back holster for a sword, which is a trope, of course, of fantasy, where he can reach it. And obviously it makes more sense, given that they're in the US, that they've got hold of an M4, M4A1, whichever that's supposed to be. I'm almost surprised they didn't go with an AK for this Soviet super soldier, because you can get those in the States as well. But he'll make use of whatever does the job. It's kind of the vibe of something as vanilla as an M4 with a grenade launcher on it. And he'll use the weapon, discard it, and maybe his personal weapon is the Scorpion as a sort of secondary weapon, but then he has a pistol as well. I kind of forgot how sort of Terminator inspired he is when he first appears in the movie. Hip-fired minigun, because of course, I mean, my preference would be you only give a hip-fired minigun to someone like a super soldier, because you'd have to be to actually do that. I think that might even be the 5.56 microgun. I wasn't paying enough attention there. That might, it's either the short barrel minigun or it was the microgun.
On the minigun, I'd completely forgot that Captain America's able to direct the ricochets off his shield, sort of seemingly when he wants to.
Yeah. I mean, if you had the ability that he has and the magic metal shield that he has, you might well find that there's a repeatable way to hold something to get it to deflect back. It's possible. Some of you might have seen the video of a 50 Browning machine gun bullet from I think it's a Barrett, can't remember, coming directly back at the shooter from a target down range. Very unusual for a ricochet to come straight back, but it is possible. It would certainly be very risky to open fire on Captain America's shield, especially given the property vibranium seems to have of absorbing energy and reflecting it. That would seem to enhance the risk and the potential for using it as an offensive weapon as well. That cocking sound effect's a bit cheap, guys. You didn't need that. That was like a 90s video game sound. It's fine. I love that jump over the car. It's so cool. I really like the progression of weapon use as well. So I kind of glossed over the actual firing of the Scorpion, but he doesn't get to use it for very long. Now, 20 round magazine isn't going to last very long from this thing. Very high rate of fire. So it's kind of dump it and you're done. Unless you're going to try and use the stock and fire accurately out to some sort of distance, which we know he isn't going to do. He opens fire with the grenade launcher, the most dangerous thing he can use to get the most shock value and destructive fire. He switches to the fully automatic M4 with the grenade launcher underneath. Next best thing, and he keeps going, and he goes down and down and down until he's got a knife, and then he ends up with this. Is it a Colt Derringer? So just when you think he's out of firearms, he pulls another one out. He's a walking Cold War arsenal.
The Colt 357 Derringer is another odd, interesting one that you only really notice and appreciate if we're doing this sort of thing and going frame by frame. I didn't even notice it had 4 barrels the first time I watched the movie.
Of all of his weapon choices, the 4-barrel Derringer is maybe the most questionable. All right, bit of a fudge there. Quick pause. So I like the cowboy style spinning in the hand thing, but these are kind of morphing out of nowhere into, well, this is the Steyr SPP, special purpose pistol, and it is a giant semi-automatic pistol version of the TMP, which we have here, which generally is used with a longer magazine, of course, and has the foregrip and is fully automatic. So for US legal reasons, the pistol version looked like this, but it works in Falcon's hands really nicely. Something about the profile of that really suits his character. The weapon casting in these movies is excellent. And a lot of that's down to the armourers over at ISS. To me, it makes sense. Like we talk about Captain America might not need firearms, but Falcon, he's not super powered. And his hands are free. You know, he's flying. He's got 2 hands free. Automatic fire, 1 in each hand. If dual wielding ever made sense, it's when you're a superhero with a winged jetpack. So Falcon isn't just giving it full auto with both hands. There's a brief shot there of him using his wing as a shield, and he's firing single shots from in the real world, semi-automatic pistols. So you might forget how gun-centric Falcon used to be. I guess that shield just really is that good.
A quick note as we get onto the section where we, of course, talk about Bucky's M249. To me, and I think we've had this conversation before, we've always referred to it as Bucky's gun. It's associated with Bucky. What I hadn't noticed until I went back and started, slowing things down, going frame by frame for this recording, is it's obtained from Romanoff's locker. So it was never Bucky's gun. He just got it from someone else's locker.
He kind of chooses it, doesn't he, as something that's very you, to paraphrase Terminator 2. But then he does end up using it as his preferred weapon, doesn't he, later on? Yeah,
he uses it for another few movies, but in universe, it was actually Natasha's gun.
Well, I hope he paid her for it. Yeah, so M249, or in our case, Paraminimi, because we don't have a 249 per se, but it's the right barrel length. Roughly the right model as well. So it has the buttstock old school style that pops out and pivots. And you do see him firing it from the shoulder there. I think he has it folded some of the time. Yeah, he's firing it one-handed with the butt folded there. The magazine sticking out the side. We don't have a 60 round, I think it's a 60 round, or is it 100 round Surefire magazine? But that's a real feature of the Paraminimi, is emergency feeding from the magazine. Now, as I know, Larry at ISS, who ran this gun for them, and others, the guys on this movie were able to make a 100-round quad stack mag work reliably with blank. That's like multiple layers of difficulty. But just having that great big mag sticking out the side, like, it makes it seem like much more of a comic book gun. And it becomes an iconic weapon for him, going right the way through. Yeah, we definitely think of it as Bucky's gun, even if it's actually on a loner.
So we've jumped into Avengers now. I wanted to show the Avengers clip because, as far as I could tell, this is the last time Captain America uses a gun in movies. And it's out of desperation, really.
Yeah, this is the thing. So if there is any kind of moral principle or something behind the lack of Captain America using firearms, I don't think it's that. I think it's just that he evolves a new system of fighting, essentially. But if you haven't got your weapon and defense system, the shield, what are you going to do but pick up a gun? So I remember appreciating the scene. This is not some kind of moral objection to firearms. He was a soldier. He's picking up a weapon and using it because it's what he's got to hand. And it's a short barrel, 11-inch barrel or something, AR-15, fully automatic AR-15. So yeah, he'd rather have a shield, all things considered. Me, maybe both.
How many of you are ready to help me sock old Adolf on the job?
Yeah, so it's nice to go back, and I've been intending, I should say, a rewatch of phases 1 to 3, I guess, because I haven't seen a lot of them in a while, and especially the Captain America movies. Really, really love those. The first one is just so good. So yeah, it's superhero stuff. Yeah, Saturday morning cartoons. They all just use lasers. A lot of them didn't use guns, but this is we entered a cinematic phase where guns were prolific. And it's nice to go back and look at those and remind myself how much I enjoy those films.
Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed our little trip to the movies. If you did, be sure to like the video, comment below what other movies or games you want to see on the show next time, and of course, subscribe. I want to give a massive shout out to all of our supporters over on Patreon for making these episodes happen. Links to support the Royal Armouries will be in the description below, as well as links to our Patreon and all of our social pages, but make sure you subscribe to EXP here on YouTube so you don't miss out on next week's episode. We'll see you next time.